So the first thing I want to mention is that I have a big update. This is the point of the video. Subscribestar was able to pay me out, and it's my understanding that they've been able to pay out many other people. So for those that are concerned about the Patreon issue, PayPal, all that stuff, Subscribestar paid out. It's good news. My understanding now is they don't currently have a payment processor for taking in donations yet, but it seems like Subscribestar might actually, they may make it. I don't know for sure. As of right now, those who have donated to me through that service, I have been able to receive your donations. It's greatly appreciated. And the other thing I'll just mention lightly is that it's very appreciated because my computer broke and I'm doing this all on a laptop, so it's going to be pretty stressful. But there's some other issues related to what's going on with Patreon, PayPal, MasterCard, etc. I'm sure many of you have been following these stories over the past couple weeks, and it's been pretty scary. There's one old story that we've talked about a while ago. You know, what I have pulled up here is specifically about Gab and Bitcoin, but before I do mention that, I want to bring up one particularly important story. And actually, do I have that pulled up? Yes, okay. So I just want to do a real quick update for those that aren't familiar. There's a man named Robert Spencer, and apparently this is from a Bitcoin website. I'm bringing this up specifically because Bitcoin is also not safe, and we're going to talk about that. The story says, citing an email from a company in August, Robert Spencer, who penned multiple books about countering jihad and advised law enforcement agencies, said it had axed him, and he could no longer put contributed funds to any use. I've been axed from Patreon without explanation, warning, or notice, no doubt as part of the ongoing efforts of the left to deny all platforms to those who reject its agenda, he wrote on Twitter. To those who supported me there, thank you, and I'm sorry we couldn't follow through on plans. Responding publicly, Patreon denied it had chosen to ban Spencer, alleging that unfortunately MasterCard required it to remove his account. You've probably heard this, but this is it's a really important point in this entire story, in that, MasterCard and Visa are essentially the global currency, right? I have a lot of libertarian friends, and they talk about, it used to be a big conspiracy about a one world currency or a North American currency, and they talk about how the euro was a trial, and they want to do the Amero and all that stuff, and I said, look, that's not true, okay? Because there's a reason to have different currencies for different economic blocks, but Visa and MasterCard can be used anywhere, right? They're the main intermediaries for most transactions. They are the linchpin. So when MasterCard, which does have terms of service, says that you can't use its service, you're cut out. And there's one story I heard online about this guy who apparently couldn't use MasterCard or Discover and could only use Visa. And there's some other stories I've heard about people who can't use either. And so they're effectively shut out from everything. There are places now, like in New York, they don't take cash. And think about where that's going to lead us, okay? A society without cash is dangerous because why would we have a private multinational billion-dollar corporation determining who can or can't spend money? What's the old saying? Give me control of the money and I care not who makes its laws. The famous quote, I believe that was from Rothschild, I'm not entirely sure. But that's where we're headed. We're literally heading into a place where a private company, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, and these other transaction companies are going to say, you know what? You can't use our service, therefore you're cut off the economy. And it falls back into that same narrative we hear time and time again from many people on the left, where they're like, well then just don't use their company, go use a different one. But you see why this doesn't work. When Twitter bans someone, and you see people on the left say, so if Twitter can do whatever they want, they're a private company, it's like, yes, but you realize there's a reason why we have antitrust laws. I don't understand how people who are supposedly on the left are in favor of these massive monopolies. It doesn't make sense to me, because as someone who's social liberal, I believe in antitrust laws and monopolies are bad, and thus when I see that Twitter has a monopoly on internet political discourse, it's extremely dangerous. But it's not that bad, admittedly, right? So Twitter bans you. Actually, it might be good for your mental health to get off Twitter. But what happens when MasterCard bans you? Yeah, now you're screwed. But the main point of this video that I want to get into is that it actually extends to a much bigger problem. So the first thing I had pulled up, obviously, is from Gab. Now, I don't care if you're a fan of Gab or not, that's not the issue, right? This issue has affected white nationalist sites and other fringe political groups, and the problem is that the cliff erodes, right? First, we heard that domain name service providers, like DNS for buyingyour.com, were banning the Daily Stormer. And there were a lot of people, myself included, who are saying that's a really bad idea. It's really dangerous to have companies like Google effectively seize these domains. Look, I don't like those people. I don't like what they do. The problem is we don't want to give unrestrained authority to massive corporations who are unaccountable, because these companies effectively work like dictatorships, right? There's no voting. You as a user of Google don't get to vote and determine what they do. You do it or you don't. And when they have a monopoly on the system, they can take your website down, they can take your payments away, and then you're effectively gone from the system because the system is relying so heavily on the internet. Some people have mentioned an internet bill of rights. I don't know if that's the answer, but I will say this. As the economy becomes increasingly connected into the internet, right? We're at a point now where without the internet, how can you even function? Well, what happens then when payment processors, when DNS, when data centers, hosting companies say, we're cutting you off? You're done. Now, a lot of people have said Bitcoin, and that brings me to the point with Gab. As predicted, the on-ramps and off-ramps exchanges are going to start censoring not only companies, but also individuals. Coinbase has now banned both Gab's merchant account and Andrew Torba's personal account. Decentralized exchanges are the future. And Gab posted this image where it said, well, I'll just pull it up. Unfortunately, we had to close your Coinbase account. Before your account can be closed, you will need to withdraw your digital currency, and then, gives them some basic, here's what you got to do before your account gets closed. Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab, his personal account has been closed. Now, we don't know why, but is this at all surprising to anyone, okay? If we know that at a certain level, MasterCard and Visa are determining that some people should be unpersoned, that should be alarming to everybody. Yet for some reason, it's the conservatives who tend to be opposed to regulation are ringing the alarm bells, and the left, which is typically in favor of regulation, it's not that either side is or isn't. No, it's just I'm just speaking in generalities. The left is supposed to be the one saying big business, monopolies, corporations are bad. And here you have them cheering this on. Where are the liberals of 10 years ago who were in favor of free speech, who wanted to break up these big monopolies? I don't see them anywhere. So this actually gets a lot worse. Gab noted on their Twitter account, right, that archive.is, which is the most notable archiving site. I use it for various reasons, for saving certain files that may be deleted or certain pages could be deleted. They tweeted, please do not use archive.is. Archive.is mirror for linking. Use other mirrors. .today, FO, LIVN, MD, PHIS. They said IS might stop working soon. One user asked why, and they said something strange is going on at IS and IC. They asked to prove the address. I do, and they respond that the domain will be deleted in 30 days. It looks much like a hostile takeover by some experienced domain name traders. Okay, so the reason I'm kind of jumping to this is that there was an issue I talked about a while ago about how the internet economy is a chain. It's a giant circle. It doesn't matter if Patreon bans you, okay? Because MasterCard can ban you, PayPal can ban you, and there's these different layers, right? So you sign up for Patreon. That's all you do. You say, Patreon, I'm going to use your service. Patreon then says to PayPal, we're going to use your service. PayPal then says to MasterCard, we're going to use your service. MasterCard then says to their various banks, we're going to use your service. What happens is, all throughout this chain, any one of these companies can say, you need to get rid of that person because you are in violation of our terms of service. Now, I've talked to some people who, I don't want to say, I did talk to Patreon specifically last year, but I've talked to some other people who work in this area with, in terms of subscriptions and things like that. And one of the scary things they told me is, and I can kind of relate, they said, and I don't want to say who it is, but it's from a social media site, said, if we don't take this person down, this one person, even though we don't agree with it, if we don't take them down, they will take down everyone. And if we have 500,000 users, do we destroy the income of 500,000 people over one person? And so ultimately, most of these companies will say, look, just ban the one person. Personally, I disagree with that. You want to know why? If Patreon said, you know what, MasterCard? No, we won't take this person down. What do you think would happen to all of the other accounts on Patreon? The $13 million per month being in transactions. You're going to have a lot of really angry people saying, what happened? And then Patreon says, MasterCard took us down. They forced us to. And what do you think is going to happen? There's going to be a revolt. MasterCard's going to back down. Someone needs to stand up and say, listen, if you are one of two, essentially, you can't just decide someone isn't allowed to send or receive money. That's not fair, okay? And our society shouldn't permit that. Sargon-Akkad wasn't banned because of MasterCard. He was banned because Patron is scared of MasterCard. In the conversation with Matt Christiansen, the Jacqueline Hart of Patron kept saying, it's the global payment system, we've got to abide by these rules. Right, so it's a fear they have. The reason I bring up Archive Today is because Archive Today is so notable for those that are I mean, for one, it's just a great service. Archiving websites makes sense. But it's used a lot by people in the culture war, both left and right, so that they can preserve the story and say, here's what was said and here's why. One of the problems with the ever-changing media landscape is that they will update articles without letting you know, okay? And so Archive.is is extremely important for maintaining this is what was at one point. It now seems like they are under attack, Archive.is being one of the most important. So it's not just about payment, it's about every link in the chain, that at any point one of them can be broken. So Archive.is, totally fine, they don't do anything, they're not supporting any of these groups, but there's still a problem. So what happens? Someone enacts what they believe is a hostile domain takeover, and yeah, if you're smart, you can do it. There's a couple honorable mentions I want to throw in here too, I think you guys should be aware if you don't. There's a website called The Hacker News, and they were banned from PayPal, and apparently they didn't know why. They said, instead of giving a valid reason, company says specific reasons for such a decision is proprietary, and it's not released since that could impair PayPal's ability to do business in a safe and secure manner. It's true. PayPal can ban whoever they want. However, PayPal dominates the market, so there needs to be something to prevent this. Unfortunately, we come back to the main point. Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson have talked about solutions. They've talked about cryptocurrency. This is just one exchange, Coinbase, and admittedly a lot of people don't like them. But if Coinbase is going to get the same pressure from the global payments network, they will terminate your account to exchange Bitcoin. The issue is, so long as people use USD or other currencies, Bitcoin is partially irrelevant, right? I believe Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, maybe not just Bitcoin, is going to be extremely important coming into the future. I do. But for now, you can exchange Bitcoin with another person, okay? And if not enough people are interested in taking it or have the ability to, you need USD. So there still needs to be that exchange. But what Coinbase is doing here is one of the biggest, it's going to be one of the most damaging things to Bitcoin, okay? One of the perks of Bitcoin, one of the biggest drivers of people who use Bitcoin is the idea of freedom, that you can, work without restraint and not worry about what these other companies will do. But if the exchanges will prevent you from making those transactions, well, this is disincentivizing people from using Bitcoin. Why would I want to use Bitcoin if other people are being banned from certain services? It reduces the market, the marketability. It reduces the amount of people sharing in this asset, which makes it less. There's less of a reason for me to use it. Coinbase is effectively damaging Bitcoin through all of this. I guess all I can really say is, back to the first thing I brought up, Subscribestar still worked, okay? If they can figure out a different way to take in donations, then we got something here. But so long as we see even Bitcoin is at risk. No, I shouldn't say Bitcoin. Bitcoin's fine. But even if Coinbase, with one of these exchanges, start banning people because of MasterCard, then we are literally in a future where the world is controlled by MasterCard and Visa and no one else. Think about that. MasterCard can ban a politician for any reason. They can say, we don't care. We just don't care, right? They'll ban people for political reasons. And then what is that politician going to do? You can't take donations anymore. You can't run your campaign. Literally, the payment processors control everything. So, the last thing I'll say is the reason this video is a bit more off the cuff is my computer's broken. I got to go get it fixed. I'm stressed out. I haven't slept. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. And I will have more videos on my second channel, youtube.com/TimCastNews, starting at 6 p.m. Stick around. Computer will be fixed as soon as possible, but I will always have more content up every single day, and I'll see you next time.